this morning on Pakistan TV. I happen to be Eesha Rehan and I've been joined by the one and only Shahzad. Today we have awoken in a very beautiful Islamabad. The sun is chirping and hopefully we are feeling a lot of peaceful breezes, not just in Pakistan but globally as well. So Shahzad, how are you feeling today?
I think I feel absolutely ecstatic and excited, and it's because of the fact that every single day, ladies and gentlemen, we get this opportunity to make sure that we sit right in front of you and, you know, kind of bring about a very positive image of the country that we love, which is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. But having said so, where you've spoken about the cold breeze, we're certainly excited over here. Now, imagine just yesterday, I think it was one of those days where I didn't really have to turn on my air conditioner. And I was really good under the fan and really had to use my blanket. So I think for people of Islamabad and Rawalpindi and the Twin Cities that we're in for a treat because the weather is going to change in coming days. And this Sunday is going to be a colder Sunday than usual. So please make sure that you embrace yourself for the winters, which is coming your way. And it is being said by the people and by environmentalists that this will be a colder winter the people of Pakistan will experience. But while we are over here at these crossroads, I really need to ask you, Eesha, how do you feel?
I feel absolutely great and ecstatic today, Shahzad. Like you said, winter is coming and we are preparing in full swing for winter festivities and for the conditions of winter as well. And we hope that the people in Pakistan stay safe and stay happy.
Exactly, which is why, you know, I think at this point of time, what we really need to talk about over here is that what stories did we bring today for our viewers who are out there in multiple different countries. So first things first, obviously the first highlight, ladies and gentlemen, we hope so that in days to come there will be a ceasefire in Gaza, Palestine, and how the Muslim countries have come together in making sure that, you know, that they're going to back the 20 points peace accord, and it means quite a lot. And if we are to speak about it, with the announcement of this 20-point peace accord by President Trump, all Muslim countries have finally taken the much-needed joint and practical step to end the genocide of innocent Muslims in Gaza. From Malaysia and Indonesia to the Middle East, the Muslim world has collectively worked towards his historic breakthrough. Not just that, since Netanyahu is being hosted in the White House by the President Donald Trump, he called the Qatari Prime Minister and the leader as well and apologized for an attack on the sovereignty and the territorial integrity, and did apologize for the loss of life of that one Qatari guard.
Exactly, you know, and speaking of global politics, let's focus on how cricket, once known as a gentleman's game, is now being scorched by politics at this time. Yesterday at the Asia Cup final, we saw how India refused to accept the trophy from Mohsin Naqvi, who heads the Asian Cricket Council, just because he was a Pakistani member. Prime Minister Modi added more fuel to the fire, comparing the cricket win to Operation Sindoor, the military attack against Pakistan, following with a storm of criticism, accusations of disrespect, and a sad reminder that instead of cricket being a bridge of peace, it is now being used as another battlefield between Pakistan and India, brewing more conflict between these countries. A sport that was supposed to bring us closer is now putting in bridges between us.
Exactly, and while we will be talking about this, we will certainly build up on how India has been doing it relentlessly over and over again. We do know how there's a Hindutva mindset, you know, just because of the fact that BJP is in power, and because of that Hindutva mindset, there are lots of lives. And in addition to this, you know, BJP's Hindutva ideology fueling relentless violence against minorities, and it keeps on taking place. So it's not just, you know, the gaming fields. We do see, and unfortunately with the false flag Pahalgam attack, we did see, you know, how they all of a sudden came in and said that, you know, that it's Pakistan, where Pakistan wanted to sit on the table with them, and we did knew that it was an inside job from within India, and unfortunately lost of innocent lives and minorities under siege in Kanpur, Ladakh and Manipur as well. We will be talking about that. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Good morning. right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us, right after the highlights. So we will certainly speak about, all of those highlights that we have shared with you. And in addition to this, obviously the 20-point accordance which has come out is something which is of pivotal importance to bring stability within Gaza and Palestine. But for all of my viewers who are out there, today I speak to you not just as a host, but as a witness to the pain, suffering, and injustice that continues in Gaza. As the world watches the cries of children, the collapse of entire neighborhoods, the anguished pleas from hospitals and displaced families, they are real. They are happening now, and they demand our voice. In addition to where I say that they demand our voice, you may have heard about the new 20-point peace accord announced by President Trump, hailed by many as a turning point, a joint move by Muslim countries to bring an end to slaughter in Gaza. Now, what do we actually mean by that? I think, but before we celebrate, let us speak plainly. What is the cost that this peace must reckon with? What is the scale of the atrocities that have brought Gaza to this brink? Now, if I asked you this question, imagine I'm going to take you back in time when it was October 2023. The Gaza Strip has endured a campaign of destruction and displacement that defies common decency. Hospitals, schools, mosques, entire residential blocks have been demolished or rendered uninhabitable. Medical staff and humanitarian workers have been targeted in airstrikes and shelling. Essential infrastructure that sustain life have been deliberately destroyed or denied repair. Now, if we are to speak about the accord, I think everybody needs to remember that more than 66,000 Palestinians are reported dead. Among these are tens of thousands of children, women, and elderly. International human rights organizations have warned that Israel's actions amount to atrocity crimes, possibly genocide. A United Nations Commission has concluded that Israel is failing to prevent and is actively committing acts of genocide across multiple categories under the 1948 Genocide Convention. Now, this is where we really need to bring in the 20-point accord, because these are not collateral damages in the fog of war. These are systematic, steady blows to the very humanity of people. The attempt is not simply to defeat an armed faction, but to extinguish a civilian existence. And this is ironic. So when we speak of the 20-point peace accord, we hope that it brings peace and a reckoning, a commitment to accountability, justice, and with dignity. This is the first milestone that has paved the way for the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. A clear roadmap for Palestinian statehood is now in sight. Inshallah, it will be achieved. Under this plan, the ongoing Israeli barbarities have not been legitimized, but the Palestinian people have been rescued from the genocide being carried out by the tyrant regime with the collective efforts of Muslim states. All key stakeholders are on board with this peace plan. The majority of Hamas and the Palestinian leadership have endorsed the accord, giving it legitimacy and acceptance among the people of Palestine. This agreement carries the consensus of all major actors and therefore holds the potential to bring lasting peace in the Middle East. And that's exactly that we hope and pray for. And we hope that, that for all of these problems and for all of these issues that the Palestinians, brothers and sisters, have faced in the recent times will go away, and they will start to live in peace and prosperity.
All right, thank you so much, Shahzad, for highlighting all of those integral facts and points that the world needs to know. And you have conveyed that to the world. And to speak more about this issue, we actually have Hasan Abdullah, who is a diplomatic correspondent from TRT World. Thank you so much, Hasan Abdullah, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Hasan, thank you so much for your time. It's wonderful to have you over here. Let's speak about the 20-point peace accord in the Middle East, and how do you think it will have its effect in bringing a lot of peace within the region, where we have seen since 2023 that a lot of atrocities and human rights violations have taken place?
Well, thanks for having me, Shahzad and Eesha. I think it's important to go beyond the initial emotional sort of reaction and excitement many people are coming up with, we have to look at what exactly this entails. Now, obviously, given that more than 60,000 people have been killed, it's understandable that people are desperate for a ceasefire. But what we have to understand is that over the last 2 years, there have been constant vetoing at the UN Security Council. So we really have to go and look at what's being, called for in this 20-point plan. So, for example, number one, they're talking about the release of the Israeli captives being held by Hamas. And in return, they're talking about the release of some of the Palestinians who are being held by Israelis. Also is the mention of the release of the remains of the Israelis who have been killed as a result of Israeli bombing. But I think this is where it starts getting substantial, which not many people are touching on. They're talking about Hamas basically stopping any sort of operations, laying down its arms. And this is where, if you look at some of the reactions that have come from some Palestinian politicians like Marwan Barghouti and others, they're saying that this is basically denying the Palestinians the right, the rights that have been granted under international law to stand against occupation. It's basically strengthening the status quo that is already there. It's basically another way of accepting what Netanyahu has been calling for. And when you talk about the two-state solution, I think it's important to look at the fact that there are no clearly defined boundaries of what a Palestinian state is going to be, because the 1967 borders have clearly been rejected, not just by the Israelis, by some of their Western backers who have said that that's not achievable. So I think we really have to go a bit deep into these points.
And if you are to kind of dive in deeper, let's first of all speak about how Netanyahu is wanted by the ICC and the ICJ. And do you think that, with this 20-point peace accord, all of it will be legitimized? Or do you think that, that there will be accountability for all the human rights violations that have taken place in Palestine, Gaza?
That's a very good point, Shahzad. Now, basically, what's happening here is it seems that the current status quo is going to be legitimized as a result of this. So what's going to happen to all the illegal settlements and the expansion that have happened post-1967? Because Netanyahu has made it clear there's no turning back on that. As far as the ICC and ICJ are concerned, we know what the U.S. position on that is. So there's, of course, the issue of enforcement. Netanyahu has been traveling to some of the countries. There are those countries that have announced that they will take action or that he's not going to be allowed. But, he continues to operate as the de facto and de jure actor, at least as far as the United States is concerned. So there are many questions about what is being accepted. And it seems that this is just going to embolden Netanyahu, because let's not forget that Trump has clearly mentioned that if Hamas doesn't accept those demands, then Israel is going to continue with the military action. The United States is going to back that. And of course, there's also the clause that the United States will support any Israeli military activity if Hamas doesn't accept all these terms. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. I think it's just strengthening the Israeli position and also legitimizing it.
All right. And Hasan, we have seen how Netanyahu actually apologized to Qatar because the Israeli airstrike actually killed a Qatari serviceman. Do you think this was more of a diplomatic pressure imposed on Israel, or was this more of a tactical strategy to keep Qatar as a close ally?
Well, first of all, he hasn't exactly apologized. He said that he's regretted the death of the Qatari official. There's no comment about the violation of Qatar's sovereignty. So that's something you have to bear in mind, number one. Number two, of course, this is about Trump projecting that he has the power to influence Israel. And what he's doing is he's granting Qatar the sort of face saving that it needs.
All right, and we have seen how many Muslim countries have jointly backed this proposal by Trump. How significant is the unity of the Muslim world? We have seen countries from Saudi Arabia to Pakistan, Indonesia, UAE, Qatar, and many more, diving in to form this unity.
Well, the unity of the Muslim world certainly is very important. And of course, any step towards unity, I suppose it's going to be welcomed by the Muslim world in particular. But what we have to understand is that there are often diverging interests. So when you look at some of the neighbors, some of the neighboring countries to the occupied Palestinian territories, they've got certain concerns. They've got some security concerns. they don't necessarily converge with the priorities of other Muslim countries. So, of course, there is this issue of divergence of interest, number one. Number two, there is this perception within the Muslim countries that they don't really have too many options and they have to go with it. I think they're trying to capitalize on Trump's psychology, understanding what sort of language he wants to hear, and they believe that that's going to give them some leverage. But unfortunately, if you look at the history, not just of the last 2 years, but of, if you start from 2020, the Abraham Accords and what's come out of it, I think it's very clear that the Muslim countries haven't really understood what sort of leverage they have, even economic leverage, which unfortunately they've failed to utilize so far.
Exactly, and Hasan, speaking of this leverage, we did see, obviously you would want to date it back to 2023 as well, where unfortunately the atrocities, kept on going, or all sorts of human rights violations were taking place in Palestine. Now imagine that it was until this time that this unfortunate incident happened, that Israel actually took to Qatar Doha, and there was an airstrike, and the serviceman was unfortunately martyred, where the Middle East got together, Pakistan got together, and all the Muslim countries sat down together and made sure that there was a two-state theory, and which would actually help finally with statehood for Palestinians. Do you think that this unfortunate incident might have actually triggered the very conscious of the Muslim world to come together and then push the United States of America as a chief ally of Israel to bring about peace in the region?
Well, the symbolism is strong here, but when it comes to actual, practical action, that's where I have my doubts. I think what we have to bear in mind is that the two-state solution is not something new. It has been there for a long time. That's the position of international law. But it has remained unimplemented, and with Israel continuously expanding its territories, expanding the legal settlements. Israel doesn't even define a border for its own country, for its own state, because it's constantly expanding. So there are practical questions about what what's going to happen to the right of return for the Palestinians. Many, many questions around this topic. So unfortunately, there's a lot of symbolism. The sort of rhetoric we're listening, it does benefit many countries, including many Muslim countries. But beyond that, what we're witnessing at the moment.
And Hasan, I will agree to you 100%, because imagine just yesterday at least 50 Palestinians, including 5 people seeking aid, have been killed and 184 injured in Israeli attacks across the Gaza Strip. Now, on the other hand, we see the the criminal wanted by ICC and ICJ, Netanyahu, in White House, standing right next to the Trump and welcoming the 20-point peace accord, where on the other hand, Israel still is at it, killing the innocent souls within Palestine and Gaza Strip.
Absolutely, Shahzad, and that's a good point. And you have to bear in mind that the countries that are calling for ceasefire, the countries that are talking about peace, some of these countries are the ones that continue to provide the weapons and ammunition to Israel that is being used on a daily basis against civilians, women, children, elderly, medics. Just yesterday, a doctor at a Palestinian hospital was shot dead by an Israeli quadcopter. So this is continuing. So I think really we have to dig deep into all this rhetoric, and we have to strike a balance between, our hopes and realistically what's coming in the days ahead.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Hasan, for being with us. Thank you so much for taking our time, and thank you so much for sharing your views onto when we speak about the 20-point peace accord, where on the other hand, it is ironic to see how unfortunately the Netanyahu-led Israel is still not stopping with airstrikes and people who were actually, it's sad for me to kind of state it this way, where people are dying of hunger, where they're tiny children, being subject to such airstrikes, where they cannot even find shelter. And imagine that you're running out for aid so that you could, eat something for yourself, because you've been hungry for all this time. And then there are airstrikes on top of that. And then on the other hand, in White House, Netanyahu speaks about, how there can be a possible ceasefire if the Hamas leaders accept the 20-point peace accord. It brings me, it's terrible to see, and this information which comes in, it's just heart-reckoning. But I'm glad that finally that the Muslim world have actually come together. The Honorable Prime Minister has welcomed, he took to the platform X and he did welcome that the 20-point peace accord will bring about peace within Gaza and for the people of Palestine. We do pray for you, each and every single day as brothers and sisters, and may, inshallah, Allah bring you a lot of stability, peace, and may Allah give you a lot of patience to kind of forbear with what has happened. So patience for all the bereaved who've been out there as well, and we look forward to a very peaceful Gaza Strip in days to come, inshallah, with the two-state theory and the 20-point peace accord presented by Mr. Donald Trump. We're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere, because when you come back, we will speak about how the gentleman's game has been actually politicized by the Hindutva mindset of the BJP party, and how the unfortunate, brainless Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India has taken to the platform X, saying that that was Operation Sindoor in Gamefield. We'll build up on that. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome back to all the people who stay tuned to stay informed. We were just building up on the story of what unfolded in the Asia Cup. India refused to get the trophy from Mohsin Naqvi just because he was a Pakistani political member. And we have seen how India is brewing and spilling lies and using sports as a tactics for politics. It is a game that was supposed to bring people together, is actually bridging us apart, and we can see how this gentleman's game has been scorched by politics. To discuss more about this issue, we have Syed Haider, who is a sports analyst. Thank you so much, Syed Haider, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Syed bhai, thank you so much for your time. It's wonderful to have you over here. Now, imagine, I've already spoken about it quite a lot just yesterday, where unfortunately, you know, how the gaming field should actually be there to unite rather to divide. And it looks like as if the, you know, the BJP-led government of India is actually now referring to a game field as a battlefield as well, which is unfortunate. But what I'm going to build up today on is, now how do you think, because imagine, so India wins the Asia Cup, they did not receive the trophy from the ACC chair. Let's just for a while forget that Mohsin Naqvi Saab happens to be the Pakistan Cricket Board's chairman. It's a rotation policy, how every other board's chairman will be the ACC head within the Asian countries. Now, imagine, don't you think that ICC or the other countries like Australia, England, South Africa, West Indies will now speak to ICC that this is not what we call the code of conduct? How do you see all of this unfolding now on the gaming field?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really India, what they have done yesterday. It is totally unacceptable, because Chairman Mohsin Naqvi is not only chairman of PCB, but he's the chairman of Asian Cricket Council. And ICC, I think ICC should intervene in this problem, and they have to look after that. Why the Indians, they have polluted the cricket with the politics. It is totally unacceptable by anyone who is involved in the cricket, because it's a game. It's not it's a battlefield there. And India was trying to get the world towards the war situation instead of cricket. It is really a very bad thing for the future of the cricket, of any other sports. If you see in all other sports, then we can see in Olympics in Germany, the Hitler was, all the countries, they were against Hitler, but they haven't boycotted Germany, and they were with in the Olympics. So it's an example. They have said that if you are in the sports, then you have to that it is only as in the sport. What they have done, I think Pakistan should go into the ICC, and they have to make a protest as a member of the ICC, because ICC is the governance body of the cricket.
Exactly, and Syed bhai, certainly that's something that PCB was already doing. Now imagine that Pakistan Cricket Board takes action against Indian player Arshdeep Singh after Surya Kumar Yadav. The PCB has filed an application with the ICC against the Indian player Arshdeep Singh, made extremely obscene gestures at the end of the match on September 21st. The text of the petition states that Arshdeep Singh violated the ICC code of conduct by making immoral gestures to the spectators. Arshdeep brought the reputation of the game into disrepute by making immoral gestures. Action has been demanded against Arshdeep for violating the code of conduct. Now, what is more important is that ICC is being led by Jay Shah, right? That's one thing that we really need to kind of understand over here. And Jay Shah, you know, happens to be the son of the Home Minister, and how they've politicized. But it's not that. Do you think that ICC will have the autonomy to decide on fair basis that, that what Arshdeep Singh did or what Surya Kumar Yadav did, in the victory speech is something that really comes under the code of conduct and they should be penalized and fined, or probably Indian cricket teams needs to be banned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true that, and Eesha is only the chairman of the ICC, but he is not only the man who is who is making the decision. To all other countries like England, Australia, New Zealand, they have to come forward. They have to show something for the cricket only, because if they will be silent right now, then it will set an example for the future that anytime the chairman of the ICC who will be, and he will make their own decisions. Asia, what is he doing? Or India Cricket Board is disturbing the cricket in all over the world where the Pakistan is playing with the other with the India. Then it is making it is making a really a pollution with the politics and something which is against the sportsman spirit. If you are in a sport, then you have to show your sportsman spirit. What they have done in the round, I think that the government of UAE, they have to intervene also, that it was playing on the surface of UAE and such type of the show what they have met the Indian cricket team. It is against the spirit of cricket also in UAE. I think the other countries, England, Australia, and New Zealand, they have to go with the Pakistan and they have to make a voice that.
Exactly. And Syed bhai, one last question. That is that imagine that it's majorly about politicizing the game, and how unfortunately the brainless Indian Prime Minister keeps on doing that. Unfortunately, imagine that the Home Minister is doing that because Jay Shah happens to be his son. So there's quite a lot of politics going on, and ICC's constitution certainly states how politics really needs to stay out of it. Now imagine that Surya Kumar Yadav happens to be the skipper for Indian T20 international team. He took to the X and he said that he has decided to donate the match fee from the tournament to support the armed forces and families of victims who suffered from the Pahalgam terror attack, which has been proved diplomatically that it was an inside job. Earlier, the Indian captain had been found guilty by the International Cricket Council of breaching the code of conduct for his comments that referred to the May conflict after the group stage match in the Asia Cup of September 14, and he was fined 30% of his match fee. I think it is going beyond fines. Now imagine that anybody could pay the fine. How and when will we see all of these players being banned for politicizing a game field?
ICC should do it. ICC should do it, because if they will not do, then it will be more. It will be, and all the today's Surya Kumar Yadav, he has done it, and now it will be more in the future, and they will make more politicize the cricket in other regions. It is very necessary for the ICC should show their governance. They should show there that the ICC can take action against everyone. It is not only against Surya Kumar Yadav, but anyone. If they will disperse the cricket anywhere with the politics, then ICC have authority to get strict action against him. But if the ICC will not make any action against them, then it will be really bad for the cricket everywhere. And Pakistan and PCB or ICC chairman Mohsin Naqvi, we are always, all of the people, what they are making the voice against this polluted matter. They are absolutely right, and it is in the favor of cricket. We are not looking our favor, but it is in the favor of cricket and sports. We have to show the other measure boards. They have to show solidarity with the Pakistan PCB, and the is that what the Indian have done. It is totally against the sportsman's point.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Syed Haider, and thank you so much for pinpointing and highlighting whether how ICC needs to take strict action against politicizing the game, and that too, for the Indian players who were within the field and they couldn't really keep their mouth shut and made sure that they are going to come in or bringing the BJP's Hindutva mindset by making sure that they politicize the game as well. And unfortunately for India, that in recent times we have seen that they have nosedived diplomatically, and that there are no countries who would want to stand by them because of the false narrative that they have been creating, and that too against, not just Pakistan. I think wherever they feel like that, because of the stronger media outlets that they have had, they would politicize almost at every front, and that's something that the world does not buy.
All right, thank you, Shahzad, for highlighting all of those integral facts. And speaking of Prime Minister Modi's tweet, a lot of people responded to that, criticizing him. And one tweet really stood out where someone said, "This man is an insult to all of mankind," not just India, but all of mankind. I think that really highlighted the gist of it. However, speaking about India, the spotlight is on India. Let's talk about where Modi's Hindutva ideology is once again fueling violence within the country against minorities, specifically where the clashes in Kanpur have spread across multiple states and deadly protests in Ladakh demanding statehood. In Manipur, ethnic clashes between Hindus and Christians have left more than 250 people dead within 2 years, while in Uttar Pradesh, a seemingly simple slogan of "I love Muhammad" has sparked the police crackdowns and the political poster war led by BJP leaders, where the poster read "I love bulldozer." Imagine starting a poster war of "I love Muhammad," comparing it to a "I love bulldozer" poster, right? So together, these events are unfolding the truth of India and how political tensions are rising within every state. To speak more about this, we actually have a guest in studio. He happens to be Dr. Owais bin Wasi. He is a Kashmiri leader
and an
and an
Indian affair
activist.
expert as well. He's over here inside the studios with us. Hello, Dr. Sahab. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. But while I say that it's wonderful to have you over here, it's very unfortunate to see what is happening in Ladakh, Manipur, and all of these places, and how unfortunately even the cremation of all of those innocent lives which have been lost, the people weren't allowed to actually attend that.
This persecution meted out to the minorities that continues or intensified since the ascension of Prime Minister Modi in 2014. And since then, we see that there is the continuous repression going on different parts of India, as you have rightly alluded to northeastern states, what is going on there, and the killings, and the people, what's their demand over there in Manipur and others. In fact, they want to have their separate state. They are asking for the separate state. And the recent violent protest taking place in Ladakh, their demand is also the same. What happened in the past is that they were expecting an Indian leadership or Indian government. They made pledges and promises that after watering down of Article 370, there would be development and progress in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. What happened is that the people of Ladakh, they have come to know that their all rights, they have been deprived of all their rights. They, the rights, the land rights, their cultural identity that has been diluted, their livelihood that has also been snatched from them. So now their demand is to have a separate state, right?
Exactly. Dr. Saab, we build up on that as well. For people, in the very layman jargon, imagine that, with the abrogation of the Article 370 and 35A, what happened was that, imagine that, that all of a sudden, it actually came under the federal control. And then what they did was that there were changes within the Constitution. If you are to speak about that they are trying to kind of, bring in more Indian people so that if ever there's a time to bring in a plebiscite, that there's a majority, so there's a geographical shift that we do see. Now, but it's not just that. So where we speak about the brainless Indian Prime Minister or the Home Minister, or they're politicizing the game, I'm going to bring to your attention where in Lucknow, UP, this was said that the Maulana seemed to have forgotten who is in power. They thought they could intimidate and block roads with force. We had clearly said there will be no blockade or curfew. Now we will teach them such a lesson that their future generations will think twice before indicting riots. Lashed out Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Now, that's the kind of leadership. If that's what you get, imagine what's happening with minorities, not just in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, but within India.
The interesting part or the, strange part or the unfortunate part in India is that in different parts of the world, when we see such incidents, so we see that maybe that some non-state actors are involved there. But when it comes to India and Israel, there is a different thing that we observe, that the state is involved there. And the statements that you are quoting, that is not coming from any group or any militant group, that is coming from the state.
It's from the people in power.
People in the power, people at the helm of affairs. So this is something which is very unfortunate, and that has not been restricted to their own people. They have started exporting it throughout the world, like in Canada, in US, Even in Pakistan, 20 people that they caught killed. So I think that if we see this whole pattern, and if you see this nexus of this Home Minister and Defense Minister and Prime Minister and all the people that they are, persecuting the minorities, they are framing legislation against them. For example, Citizenship Act, if you see that only Muslims are excluded to grant the citizenship. All the other, immigrants coming from other countries, their identity, if they are not Muslims, so it has been advised by the government functionaries that their citizenship should be managed and should be navigated on the fast track, right?
And on this point, we have seen how Modi is being accused of normalizing state-backed oppression against Muslims. So do you think India is heading towards more of a polarization, and how is this going to impact the minorities living there?
You know, this, first of all, that there is somebody who said once that it's safer to be a cow in India than to be a Muslim. So I think that epitomizes the whole, scenario which is going on over there. And we have also seen a report in the past that this, especially the southern states, that is the economic engine of India, they are not comfortable with this Hindu belt, so the internal division is already there. And when we see the northeastern region and the states, and we can see that they are asking for the separate statehood. And now Ladakh. So, for example, if you see Ladakh is a region that has traditionally been aligned with India, but now they are thinking that we have been betrayed, and they are saying that we have been protecting India's border. Now we want ourselves to be protected. So, such kind of betrayal is being felt in those regions which were otherwise, being considered close.
And we would certainly want to build up more on that as well, which is why we've been joined by the Executive Director, CISS, Azad Jammu Kashmir, Dr. Asma Shakir Khawaja. Hello, Madam. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for your time. How are you feeling today?
Alhamdulillah, very well.
Thank you so much. So Dr. Wasi over here did establish that, how unfortunately not just in Ladakh but in Uttar Pradesh, where the posters of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam were torn away, and how, the atrocities actually keep on rising against the minorities even within India and within Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. What is the current state at hand? What is going on as of now? Because quite a lot of lives were lost, unfortunately. There were multiple people who were injured, and they plan to bring in bulldozers. And they say, the leadership of India now say that the future generations will now think twice before causing riots.
Exactly, as you know, that bulldozer is like a sign of BJP because they used it against the students of Jamia Millia in Delhi, against like during every riot. And what they do with the bulldozers, they destroy the houses of protesters, they punish their families, they launch collective punishments with the help of bulldozers. So Modi regime right now, if you ask me, their policies for last 10 years are extremely repressive. And not only minorities, but the lower Hindu caste, such as Dalits, they are also facing the wrath of people in power. Even like you rightly said, the freedom of speech is not there, and if anyone says anything which is not compatible with the Modi's policies or Modi's statements, he faces the wrath of the government, and plus the reaction of RSS members and Hindu radicals, and he has to face all of this. So the situation is really grim, and we all know in a state nation which is multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, such policies only cause this social and ethno-religious polarization, which India is suffering from like now.
Exactly. And that's something that we have seen for a longer period of time. Now, I'm going to come back to Dr. Wasi over here, who actually did mention how these unfortunate incident keeps on taking place. Now, imagine that if we are to speak about the policies of the unfortunate Hindutva mindset of the BJP, there's discrimination, there's gender violence, there's repression, there's aggression, and that too is state-owned, and it is backed by the state. How do you think that people will overcome these atrocities and this human rights violation, this discrimination, this gender violence, the incidents of rape, unfortunately, within minorities caused by the Hindu or Hindutva mindset majority? How do you think that all of these things will come to an end for people, who are minorities?
First of all, that this thing, that the way that Indian government is treating, the plight of minorities, that is, I think, that is evident to the whole world, because we see a number of reports, for example, Amnesty International, and the very important consecutive reports, I think, for 4 years. Every year that report has been, coming out. That was the United States International Religious Freedom. That is the forum. So that forum has been releasing the report on the plight of minorities in India, and it considers India a country of particular concern because of the mistreatment to the minority. So that is the situation that is well established. Now what we need to do, or the minorities that they need to do, is I think that they need to come up with a united front, because almost half of the population of India is minorities. If you gather together this Muslims and Christians and Dalits and Jains and Buddhists and others, as for example, that the Buddhists can also be brought together, what is happening to them in Ladakh.
Exactly.
So I think that they should come up with a united voice, with a united front, and they must challenge this authoritarian regime which goes against its claim, which professes through its constitution, but actually it has turned India into a place which is the persecution for the minorities.
You have highlighted all these points very, very accurately, which is why we're going to turn to Dr. Asma. Dr. Asma, we have seen what is happening in Manipur, in Uttar Pradesh and in Ladakh. And when you look at this, it feels like these are just localized, isolated incidents. But when you look at the bigger picture, you can tell that this is actually a strategy against the Muslim minorities in India. What do you have to say about it?
Yes, you rightly pointed out. When we see all this upsurge of different insurgencies in India, they indicate upon one thing, that the perception of deprivation, the perception of being are not stakeholder in larger setup of state is getting intense, and that is why different minorities and different ethnic groups are actually have launched or opted for violence to make themselves audible to the state government. Unfortunately, even despite that, they are not audible to the state government, because when we see India's political system right now, that is based on majoritarianism, where minorities are diluted or they are not visible to the majority, where the majority is taking these decisions and implementing them on the ethnic minorities without their consent, whether it was the revocation of Article 370 in Kashmir, or their decisions about Manipur or Dalits or Assam. They never thought that what minority would think and how to cater the concerns and demands of minorities. So I was recently listening to in an interview of Arundhati Roy, and she said that in order to safeguard majority or majoritarianism, even the media has been weaponized. Even their cinema industry, movie industry has been weaponized, and all of them are pursuing Modi's agenda by glorifying violence in the name of fascist nationalism. And this is what the contemporary India today looks like. Whether it is Manipur or they are Bangladeshis in Assam, or Bengalis for that reason, or they are Kashmiris. The massive crackdown on civilian population, rather in violation of international humanitarian law or international law. India has even forgot the difference between an armed military officer and unarmed civilian, because the civilians are facing all types of, there are various comedians or stand-up comedians in India who were only put behind the bars because they criticize Modi government, because they criticize some of his policies. And then we should be thankful, we should be grateful or have gratitude that no other country in South Asia faces that type of limitations on freedom of expressions, where comedians are not behind the bars only for saying something which is not soothing to the.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Dr. Asma, for so wonderfully explaining it to the rest of the world, with this window on Pakistan TV that we open up to the rest of the world. Thank you so much for bringing so important points to the table where the world really needs to understand that India might call themselves the largest democracy, but they certainly do not have the traits of it as well, where we do see how there's a divide, where we do see there's gender violence, where we do see there's discrimination, where we do see how they use their own soldiers against their own innocent civilians. Thank you so much, Dr. Wasi, for being with us. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, it's for the world to decide that it's not just Israel with all of these atrocities or human rights violations, it's even India. And we need to make sure that we bring them to justice. Look after yourselves. Allah Hafiz.